Guys, we're going to be multiplying decimal state, and there's going to be an easy 3-step method to doing this. And what we're going to do is once we've discovered the method, once we've used the method, we're going to apply it to several different similar calculations, and just have a look at how our answers can vary based on how many decimal places our answer has. So obviously we need to look at an example for this question before we look at the 3 steps, just to kind of make them applicable. So I'm going to start with this example that I like over here, which is going to be 1.2 times 0.6. So we're going to use that to start off with, and we're going to try and calculate an answer for that. That might be a little bit scary for some of you guys. You might be thinking, oh, there's decimals here, there's decimals here, 12 times 6, I don't really like that. But don't worry, we're going to break down all the barriers to make sure that we can do this calculation. So step 1 is count the DPs. So DPs actually stand for decimal places, not decimal points, decimal places. A number can have more than one decimal place. So for example, 0.004 actually has here 1, 2, and 3 decimal places. So that's what we're going to be looking to find in the question here. So question has a number here times a number here. 1.2 has 1 decimal place, and 0.6 has a second decimal place. So the question actually has two decimal places in it. So 1 in this number and 1 in this number. Quite often, a mistake a lot of my students have is they'll go, oh, there's 1 decimal place, because they'll just look at this number. Or in this situation where it's a number and a decimal and a 0 point something, they'll forget this is a decimal, and they'll look at this number and say there's 1 decimal place, therefore it's got 1 DP in it. So some of you guys might just want to get straight into it, and you want to say, look, let's just get to step 2. So that is ignoring the decimal places. So ignoring the decimal points. That's why I put ignore decimals. So and just calculate. So this becomes 12 times 6. So some of you, I like this bit because this is something you're comfortable with, that's familiar. The answer to 12 times 6. 72. Okay, so our answer here is 72. Well, there's 3 steps. So what's step number 3? So now we've ignored the decimal places, and we have an answer for our calculation, 12 times 6. What I'm going to do is step 3, go ahead and put the decimal places, put the decimal points back in, put the decimals back in. So our answer should have the same number of decimal places as the question. Our question had 2 decimal places, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to write our answer here, which is 72, but we're going to give it 2 decimal places, 1, 2, which means that we're going to go ahead and put a decimal here, 0 here, and a decimal. So our answer, we can say our answer, 1.2 times 0.6 is 0.72. What we've done here, guys, is step number 1 is we've counted the decimal places in the question. Step number 2 is we've calculated what the number, we've ignored the decimals and calculated what the 2 numbers times together is. And number 3 is we've put the decimals back in, but the main thing is that the answer needs to have the same number of decimal places as the question. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this technique to do another very similar calculation and see what the difference is. So we've got 0.12 times 0.6, so very, very similar to our first calculation here, except for this number here is now 10 times smaller, so 0.12 instead of 1.2. So step 1, we're going to go ahead and count the decimal places, 1, 2, and 3. Remember, counting both numbers, so we've got 3 DPs. Step number 2 is, well, 12 times 6. We know that still is 72. Hasn't changed since we last did this. And we want to give 72 3 decimal places. So we're going to go ahead and give 7, 2. So 1, 2, 3, third place, 1, 2, 3 places. And then we're going to follow it with a decimal. And obviously we need to put 0 in front of that. So our answer here at the front is going to be 0.072. So if we want to take a second and have a look at how many decimal places we have in our question, and question can directly impact our answer. So obviously, as I've already mentioned, if we've got however many decimal places we have in our question is exactly however many we're going to have in our answer. So here 12 times 6, 0 decimal places in our question, there's 0 decimal places in our answer. This goes all the way down to 1.2 times 6, 1 decimal place. This is going to give us 1 decimal place in our answer. There's a decimal place here and here, so we've got 2 decimal places in this question. It's going to give me 2 decimal places in my answer. And again, the calculation we've just done, there's 3 decimal places in our question, which means it's going to be 3 in our answer. If we want to extrapolate this out, we could think of a silly example like, so I've managed to find a silly example. Over here we have 0.0000012 times 0.0000006. So again, we can just have a look at the classic way we've been doing this, count the decimal places in the question. So here in this number we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So 6 in this number, 7 in this number. Altogether we have 13 decimal places in this question. So what we can do is, we know 12 times 6, I hope we know that now, 12 times 6 is 72, but we need to go ahead and give it 13 decimal places, and considering we've got 2 digits here, means that we need 11 zeros followed by 11 zeros preceded by a decimal point. Okay, so we've got 72 preceded by 11 zeros, and that's preceded by a decimal point and a 0. So our answer is 0.00000000072. And that is how we multiply decimals. Obviously, I would love to do more on this topic. Let me know if you guys want more help with this. I'll be happy to test out different examples and just go ahead and see what it's like. Obviously, we can vary this up. So there's several decimals in the first one, and in the second one we can have a look where there's 1 decimal place in the second answer, in the second question. In the second number. We can do this a number of different ways. So if you guys drop me a message, tell me what you want to see more content on. If there's some specific questions that are bugging you that you just can't do, it'd be good to do that. If you want to have a look at some numbers that are quite complicated, so what we need to do is we need to use a technique like partitioning or grid method or something like that to be able to find out what step 2 is. Step 2 is just the simple calculation. We can look at things like that as well, and joining different techniques together. Drop me a comment, guys, a like if you liked it, and obviously I'd really appreciate a subscribe. Thank you very much.